All right, so I've got Nate here. He's going to be
Hello.
joining me today. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nate. I am 24 years old, and yeah, I mean, I'm from Jordan. I live in Toronto right now, and I'm a singer-songwriter, musician, and I'm a big psychology fan. So I love talking about mental health and self-help stuff. That's
Very cool. Yeah, I was just trying to think, how did we meet? On Instagram.
Yeah,
I think I was like starting to play a little bit of music on my channel a bit, experimenting, and you were reaching out to me. And I
yeah,
found out, yeah, you have your own like Instagram for your songwriting and stuff, which is pretty
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I did have that. I'm actually like speaking of that, I've transported everything to my what's it called? To my like main account because I can't juggle two accounts. I don't know. I mean I know you from a long time ago. Like it's kind of weird because I think you're like when you start off like you're trans and you're figuring stuff out, you see that you have a couple guys that you follow or whatever, and you were one of them. So it was like yeah, it was kind of weird. Like once we actually started talking, I was like, oh okay. And like when I moved here, I was like, oh, you're in the same like. I didn't realize you were in Canada until I got here, so that was pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of people assume I'm American for some reason. I don't know why. So I was really intrigued to ask you some questions. First off, I just wanted to ask you like where you were from and
Yeah.
when you moved to Canada.
Yeah, so I'm from Jordan. Technically, like originally, I'm from Palestine, but my nationality is Jordanian, sort of. That's another long story. But yeah, I moved to Canada in February of 2020. So yeah, it's been right before COVID. Really fun stuff, and it's been a while now. Um, but I grew up in Malaysia, so that's another added
Oh
layer.
wow.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually ever told you that, but yeah, I grew basically from age 4 until 22. I was in Malaysia. So
Okay, so when you moved to Malaysia, did your parents just like move there because of work stuff or?
yeah, exactly. It was my dad got a job offer, and so we just moved. They were just newlywed like a couple years back, so it was an opportunity, and yeah, that's that's how it went.
Okay, cool. And what was your experience like moving to Canada? What do you think of Canada compared to like Malaysia?
Mm.
Is it very different?
Yeah, so I mean, moving to Canada, I would say was pretty easy. Then again, I don't actually have the typical moving. I didn't immigrate. Is it immigrate? Migrate, whatever. Migrate here like English. Migrate here like a normal way, I guess. So maybe it's more difficult for people who just are trying. They're coming here to get a PR or work visa, but I would say it was pretty smooth for me. And as soon as I got here, I had people to help me out with like how to use public transport and like making my bank account and all of these things. So I got settled in pretty quickly. I would say though that it did like something that really helped me out is that I was willing to do the work to get settled. Also, obviously, language. I already had English as a language, so it made it easy for me to get around. Whereas, like other maybe refugees who are Arab and stuff, they don't know how to communicate. That makes it harder, and that's not really their fault. But some people also don't. They get here and they don't really put in the work to like find a place to live or like to get a job, and because the government, like I came in here as a refugee, so like the government helps you out a bit. They give you like some money until you get a job,
Yeah,
and some people kind of take that for granted, I guess. And so it's kind of you put in the effort and you get back, right? So I'd say I had a pretty smooth settling in process, and Malaysia compared to Canada, especially now, because Malaysia has been having its own issues in the last few years. I would say that I like Canada a bit better, and obviously, then being trans has added a new level to it.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, like I mean, compared to my home country, Malaysia's okay in terms of trans stuff, just because you can technically get treatment like hormones and all that. It's still an issue there, but like especially being a foreigner in Malaysia, I wouldn't be at too much danger of that. You know what I mean? Because no one, you can't apply laws to me. You know what I mean? Um, but still, like here, obviously, it's actually legal, and you have a right to get some, help and medication and surgeries, and so that in that case, that's been a whole weight lifted. Um, it's just, I think the strangest thing is being here and now being able to actually buy things that I want rather than just keep saving money to get,
Yeah.
So that's been a nice change, and people are nice generally. Um, I haven't experienced anything, although I know that there are some bad things, but I think every country has its bad apples, as you can say.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the COVID situation has highlighted a lot of things, about being in a more, with more rights and freedom, you have more issues sometimes, and that is
Yeah.
annoying, but
I think it would be difficult to have like dealt with like a situation like yours where you're coming from places where there's like a lot of trouble, and then you come to a place where like we really do have a lot of freedom and we take it for granted, and then when you're like, hey, wear a mask because it's good for public health in the community, and people are saying that's against my rights, it must be really hard for you. Or
I'm just like, you have no idea how good you have it, but then like it makes you seem like, I feel like some people see you as, I don't know, not even a hypocrite, what do you call it? Like they see you as ungrateful because it's like, well, you came to this country for rights, then you should like, you should respect my right to do. You know what I mean? It's like if you want it to be like your country, then go back there, and it's like, oh my god.
such a horrible like cop out thing though that people do. It's like if you don't agree with my opinion, just go back to where you came from. That it doesn't work that way.
It's a difference between a collectivist and individualistic culture, I guess. Like there's the bad thing of like people, with collectivism, you're like, oh, what will people think about us, because everyone views the whole family as you. So like if they hear that you're trans, like what do they say about us? But at the same time, it's like at least we see ourselves as a collective and like care for each other.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man, there has to be a middle ground.
So when did you first like acknowledge that you were transgender? How did that go for you, like being in Malaysia?
I mean, obviously, the usual cliche growing up, I felt different, but I didn't really think much of it. I just thought, I'm a tomboy and I don't like the same things, and I'm not comfortable with being girly. Uh, it was, and then like, I just didn't think much of it. I thought I'd grow out of it, and I was a very chill, go with the flow kind of kid. I didn't make trouble. I didn't talk back, that kind of thing. So I just went along with life. And I mean, slowly you like realize, oh, I mean, obviously this is not the same for every trans person, disclaimer, but you realize like, oh, I like girls, cool, nice. Deal with that first, and then you think that you found yourself, but I guess there's still something not quite right. And I started to, yeah, I just started to realize that I don't really identify, like I'll just like to say that, oh, I like girls. Like I wouldn't say lesbian. If I had to say, I'd say gay. But I feel like that, I mean, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, so I'd say that. I wouldn't really say I'm a girl who likes girls. Like it just like there was something missing in that definition, I guess is the best way to put it. And yeah, like I just one day like what I remember is that I came across someone's like YouTube. I don't even know how. I think Alex Birdie was the first guy I found from the UK. And like, yeah, I thought when I first saw his channel, I'm pretty sure I thought he was like a cis guy, and then like then I saw another video, and then he was talking about something that kind of suggested he was, and I was like, wait, what's this? And like, and then like it's not like I grew up not knowing what trans people were. I just didn't know what they really are. My parents obviously warned me about this, and like this is not accepted, and LGBT and all that, and I just thought about like, and all you had in mind was trans women. Obviously, that's always the thing that they talk about, and like, yeah, and honestly, even then, they weren't really talking about trans women. They're usually talking probably about like, I mean, I don't know if they like, they just have this like this idea that they just project of like a really demonized like sexual way of seeing trans people, and how like they just make it really bad. So like this is the first time I saw someone just being a person, like
Yeah, it's like, oh, they're normal, like a human.
and for a bit, like and then I quickly went in. I'm Muslim, so like I went in being like, is this allowed in Islam? Can I do this? And I found this guy who said it was, and I started to prep to like tell my parents. There's so many things in my childhood that like looking back, you're like, okay, like like this kind of was like a foreshadowing, which that's also like a recent thing for me that I've been realizing more and more. So, but yeah, so I freaked out, and I was like, okay, like no, denied it. No, not gonna happen. Tried to like pray it away. No one told me to. It was just me. Like I was like, okay, this is the only way I'm gonna get rid of this. And for a couple months, I pushed it away pretty well. I got really more feminine, which probably made my parents happy because I never did that out of my own like complete willingness. And I really played the part, and like for a while I was happy, but I feel like it was like this happiness of like I'm making everyone else happy, life is going smoothly. I don't know how to explain it. It's like even though it wasn't really me, but I was happy that it was working out at that point. Like I'm doing well playing this part. Like I have consistent things that come because of my religiousness, and then I'm trans. I have this consistent anxiety that comes back every now and then, like once a year. It has to come in, give me a panic attack for a while, and it's kind of like these thoughts of like, I never like. What if they had put me into therapy, and then either it would have worked and we'd be okay as a family, or it wouldn't have worked and they would know that they tried and it didn't work, so they can accept me, you know. But I feel like by the time I told them, I was so solid, like solidified the idea that this is me. Not saying that it's not me, but when your anxiety acts up, you start to be like, oh, what if this, what if that, and no. But but by the time I told them, it was solid. So like, even if they wanted to send me to therapy, it was definitely gonna do anything. I knew who I was. Like, you can't pretend that. It's weird.
I mean, in our situation, definitely, it's different, yeah, because I grew up fairly religious too, and I think there would be some similarities. Like, I grew up Christian, you grew up Muslim, so there's this expectation, to be a certain way, and LGBT is very much looked down upon. I just felt like I could not be myself, and it was like an upward battle. So it's always funny to me when people say, oh, you're choosing this. Like, who in their right mind would ever choose to struggle so much to be themselves? You know what I mean? So yeah, I was actually going to ask you though, like, what is your experience? Because I'm not religious anymore. What is your experience with Islam and being transgender and like all of that? How is that?
It's a struggle, because there's obviously my family. I mean, my family's main point of rejecting it is religion. Like, although I do feel there's a cultural side to it too that they're not admitting to, they do stand by the point that it's religious, and like that's why I'm on this mission to prove to them that there's nothing wrong with it. Because I feel like that would not only make them accept me, but give them peace. Like, I feel like, sorry, I feel like for the most part, my mom has accepted it. Maybe even my dad. But they probably don't have peace because they're thinking, you're sinning, and I don't want that for them. So I believe personally that it's not a sin, and I have my like evidences, which I'm actually currently waiting on this like religious, I don't know what you call them in English. They're called muftis. So they like basically they can make religious rulings on things that are ambiguous, not very clear. And like I feel like that's the only way for me to stop getting my like annual anxiety attacks as well. So I'm waiting on him to go through the stuff that I gave him. I gave him a bunch of like journal like studies and like, you know, just to be, and even, you know, because I've seen like recent papers of people saying the exact same points that I make about Islam and trans people, how there literally isn't anything in there that's actually about trans people. It's just people taking the verse and being like, this applies to you. You know what I mean? So I'm waiting on that. So that's my relationship with it. Because basically, there's a lot of Muslim trans people around, actually. But either, or ex-Muslim. So that's where it goes. I feel like the way it goes usually with Muslim people who realize they're trans is that either they leave their religion. They're like, if you're telling me I'm a sinner, well, okay, bye. Like, I'm just gonna go transition, and I don't want to deal with this anymore because I have so much trauma, you know. Or the second one, they stay like Muslim and even technically religious, you can say. But if I ask them like, what would you respond to the ones who tell you that being trans is a sin? They don't. They're like, oh, you know, God, I don't know how to explain, but their answers don't convince me. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel like you're just trying to say like, oh, God will accept me no matter what. And like, I know some religions believe that, but with ours, no. There's still some sort of, you know, rulings and like boundaries, and like that matters to me because that, to, you know. So I feel like there's no trans person that I know of who's actually fought to get recognized religiously. Like, I want to start a conversation. I'm trying to. Maybe it won't happen. Maybe I'm not that person, but I want to start that conversation in Islam to be like, if the guy that I'm communicating with sees my point and sees that it's true, like, because I'm convinced of it, otherwise I wouldn't be fighting it, then like maybe we can have acceptance within the, you know, Islamic community for trans people, like actual acceptance, not just the one-off parents or family members who are like, okay, sure, I'm cool with it. Like, no, like, we're not an exception.
I think that makes so much sense, and I think that's beautiful if you're able to, like, I don't know, um, no matter what, you're gonna have an impact, even if it's not like a worldwide thing, but you're making an impact on your family, and you're making an impact on people in your community, and like very slowly opening minds, and that's like, as a child, I never really felt connected to the Christian religion. It always felt very restrictive to me, and as an individual, I'm not into that. But I would love for all religions in general that seem to have, you know, an issue with LGBT people, or, you know, they're not very inclusive of different types of people, to be inclusive, because at the end of the day, that's what they're supposed to represent, right? Like loving other people, and the golden rule, I'm sure, applies to Islam as well. Like, that's the whole point. So like, why wouldn't you like accept people for who they are and just let it be, you know?
Exactly. I think that's my aim. But just the like with Islam, it's like there's actually we have two sects. Well, I think we actually have more than one. I'm not really. I just see us all as Muslim, to be honest. But there is the Shia people who are usually like Iran, Pakistan, maybe. They like, because, you know, like, I think you with Christians, you have different types of Christians. It's like kind of a similar deal. So you have like different types of Muslims, and they like in Shia. I mean, whatever. Like, to me, it's all the same. But like with Shia, like they believe that like they allow trans surgeries and trans people, like they allow it. Not to say that the countries that they don't experience some sort of intolerance from the people themselves, but like religiously they're given the green light. But like I'm Sunni Muslim, which is the more I think it's the more common one, and like I don't yeah, whatever, I'm not even gonna say facts like I know them, but yeah, like that one, they're the ones who have an issue with trans people still. So we're trying to change that. Don't know if it'll happen, but we try.
Good for you, man. It's not an easy battle at all. Yeah, and I've always been super intrigued by religions. I think that at their core, they're very beautiful, and they're all very similar, especially the three Abrahamic religions like
Yeah.
Islam and Judaism and Christianity. But like they seem to fight about like very small things, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately there's like a lot of privilege that Christians especially have. It's like they want to like, I don't know the right word, like just take over, you know what I mean? But then they think, oh, Muslims want to take over, and it does that make sense? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, how can you, like, that's exactly what you're perpetuating onto the world. You're colonizing the world. You're like trying to create the world the way that you want it to be, and then you're mad that other people are like fighting against that. That's always like, what? Like, I don't get it. It makes no sense.
I mean, there is that like, I mean, I don't know. Personally, from what I know with like Islam, it's like you, if you're Muslim, then you know you do your best and you advise your like other Muslim friends and family, and then like you do have that obligation to spread the positive word of Islam. But it's not like, it doesn't have to be like going to people and be like, you know, here's, it's more like it's actually probably advised that through your actions, like be a good person, and people can associate that with Islam, which has happened. Like I have heard stories of like someone meeting like a really like, I don't know, generous like person. They found out they're Muslim and they do this because, you know, Islam has inspired them to do it, and then they might convert as well. That could happen. But that's the point, right? Religion, there's no compulsion like in religion. As far as I know, there isn't Muslim people going around to like doorsteps and giving flyers and whatever. As far as I know, there are things I can critique, obviously, of like Muslim like certain like preachers, and you know, but I guess as long as they keep it within their mosques, I'm just gonna like, okay. But yeah, like I mean, obviously, like every person, you know, they believe in their religion because they believe that's the religion, that is the religion, right? Um, so I can't sit here and not be like, I don't feel the same way, but at the same time, I understand everyone has their journey and everyone has their experience with certain religions and certain knowledge, and like all I can do is give what I know about my religion and how I use it to live my life. And if that happens to inspire someone to join me on the dark side, no, you know, to join, to come, you know, like to want to learn more, and maybe adopt. Oh my god, maybe adopt. What's wrong with me? Adopt the same like beliefs. You know, that's great. But if it's not clicking with you, then I can't really force it. You know what I mean? Like it clicked with me. I can't unclick it as well. Like, I mean, I was born into it, and and no matter how much I do, I mean, I do question things like anyone else. We're all human. But for me personally, I'm like, I can't doubt it. You know what I believe. So
I think for me, that's the most important thing. And you just said that, like for you, your religion, like you're okay with people not converting if they don't feel that. But I think
yeah,
a lot of religious people in general, like it doesn't matter what religion, they really struggle with that piece. And they feel like it's their mission to convert people. And that's when things get violent, because when you have two or three or four different groups that are like, my way is the best, no, what my way is the best, you're gonna, like, it's gonna be violent. It's gonna cause wars. It's not gonna be like a loving situation. But if you can sit there with another person and be like, okay, we have like maybe some different views on things, but like that works for you, this works for me,
yeah.
then like it would be a great world. We could just all kind of flow and do what feels best for us, as long as we're not harming other people.
exactly, like if you're forced into something, you're not gonna genuinely believe it, and
Yeah.
that's the main point of any faith. It's literally faith. Like you have to believe in what you're converting to, otherwise it doesn't really count. So people need to
Exactly.
chill.
All right, and then I wanted to ask you, what is trans joy to you? Like, what is joy in general, I guess, to you? But what makes you feel euphoric about your gender and who you are as a person?
I think, I don't know. That's actually a tough question. Like joy to me is just feeling comfortable and having people around you, like just feeling full. Like there's nothing really missing, and but at the same time, like you're okay being alone. But you know, if you wanted to reach out to people, you have those people. Like and like obviously family is an important thing, like just to stay in contact with them even if you're not on the same like best terms or like the most agreed like agreements. You still keep in touch, you still take care of each other, care for each other. That makes me happy. Money makes me happy. Not gonna lie. Food is a big source of joy. But in terms of like gender euphoria, I mean, I like having facial hair. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, for sure. That's a huge one, I would say, for a lot of people.
That's it. Like it's kind of strange, and I mean it's nice because then obviously it removes. As a trans man, you get a dysphoria about a lot of things, and you're like, oh, my hips and my legs and my, but clearly, people don't see all that. They just see you and how you carry yourself, I guess. And I seem to be doing well in that aspect, so that makes me feel good. Still get happy to like be called sir, and it's nice. Yeah. I've gotten used to sir, but I feel like recently there was this time we went out, me and my friends, and we asked this mother to like take a photo of us like we were at the Toronto Islands, so we asked her like, can we get a photo and whatever. And she took the photo. She was like, oh, such a like lad's photo, and I was like, oh, that's nice. Like I don't know, it was, like these like tiny things of like. And I guess now another thing is like actually having guy friends, because I mean I had guy friends before, but I was socialized as female, right? So I had a lot more female friends, and that's just made it easy. But when I came here, I was actually restarting completely and like fully transitioned with the beard and everything. And it was kind of tough at first because I felt like I couldn't talk to girls anymore, like just to be friendly. Like I was scared to come off as a creep or trying to like, I don't know, be weird. And I'm just like, no, I'm just literally talking to you. But then it also meant that now like all of my friends are guys, and that's such a weird shift, because that was not the case before. Like literally all my friends here are guys. The girls are much like acquaintances at most.
Right.
And do they know? Do they know about your transition?
Yeah, they found out through like YouTube. I won't tell them myself. But yeah, like and they just kind of like, oh, okay, like cool. Like one guy came in to check, like, oh, like what are your pronouns? Just want to check. And I was like, oh yeah, and I'm like, yeah. And it's nice because also like when I had guy friends before, most of them were usually like gay or bi, so like they were LGBT, but like the guys I'm friends with now, they're straight cis men. So I'm like, it's nice to have, that kind of comfort, and I guess you kind of feel it, right? Like you feel like the people you click with, because these guys I've clicked with really well, so you feel like that should make sense.
I've met a few trans people, and actually one of them's a really good friend of mine. He moved away a while ago, but they they didn't tell anyone that they were trans, and I always found that very interesting. I was like, first of all, like I don't know, this is just me and how I kind of am processing it, but how do you really get close to someone if they don't really know like you as a person? And for me, it's like not all of me. Of course, there's more to me than just my transition, but it's certainly like a core piece of me and my experience. So it's like if I don't share that, then they don't really know some of the stuff that I've gone through, and like, you know what I mean? But it's cool to hear your story and how like they didn't know in the beginning and they were so like understanding and cool with it and accepting.
It was nice because for me, I agree with you. Like when I came here, I wanted to be stealth, to be honest. Like I just wanted, like I had certain people I'd tell, but like otherwise, no. Like I don't want anyone to know. Da, 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 da. But there's like I don't like feeling. It's like number one, why am I ashamed of it, right? Number two, I don't like feeling like this is something that someone can out me about. At the same time, though, I had to make it clear to like my roommates, for example, and like, the people close to them that I know knew that you don't out trans people. Like my roommates didn't really think of it that way. I always say like, you can tell. They think if they tell their girlfriend or whatever, it's fine. It's like no, like that's my thing to tell. Like even if I'm gonna be open about it, I still have the right to choose how I want to tell. So like, but yeah, like it shouldn't. I don't want it to be something that I feel like I am constantly guarding, like you can't ever find out that I'm trans. But I think the way I'm doing it is nice for me to just, you first meet me, you don't know, cool. We become friends, we don't, cool. After that, you happen to find out, all right. That's at least it's not the first thing you ever found out about me. That's all that really.
Yeah.
That's personally my thing. Because, like you said, that's not the whole of me, and I find it like very medical. Like if you
Yeah.
you know what, like it wouldn't be the first thing I tell someone if I had another issue. Like I don't tell them, oh, I injured my left foot when I was 10. You know what I mean? Like it's just that happens later. But yeah, I agree with you for sure. It's you can't know someone, you can't be close to them without really. Because it's like the smallest thing. They're like, how did you come to Canada? I'm like, so there's this thing that I got. Like, why did you get stopped at the airport? Why couldn't you just go home? How do I explain that without explaining everything else that comes with it?
So is that why you got the refugee status? Because of your transition? Oh wow. Okay. So
Because I
you
applied.
you
Yeah, I
wouldn't
applied.
be safe to return.
Yeah, luckily I had that because you have the UNHCR, which is this United Nations, blah, 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 very long name, Humans Commissions Refugees or something. I don't know. But like, I applied for asylum when I first like came back to Malaysia, because I ran away, like because I went back to Jordan first and I ran away from home, went to Malaysia, signed up for asylum, and yeah, so like funny enough, I had missed a couple. Oh, this is a whole other story. Like this is just for you if you want. But it's like I missed my interviews because of like misunderstandings of how the system works, and I think if I hadn't missed those interviews, then I wouldn't be here. Which is so funny because you think it's the other way around. Because why I say that is that if I'd done these interviews, I probably would have been given refugee status within Malaysia, and I would have been told to not leave. I didn't know at that point that I shouldn't leave, even though I had a passport. So I left to Indonesia when my Malaysian visa was ending, just to renew it. But yeah, and because of that, because I left and then got stuck. Like when I tried to go back into Malaysia, they didn't let me because they're like, "Why are you coming back in? What do you have to do here?" Da, 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 da. They didn't let me in anymore, and they sent me back to Indonesia where I came from. And then when that happens, Indonesia doesn't let you in either. Then they're like, okay. So I was just detained like in the airport.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, so because of luckily before everything like that happened, I already contacted, like had a few people I knew, and I was like, look, they're not letting me in. This is probably not gonna go well, so do something. This was like when I was still in Malaysia. So luckily, I already like when I got to Indonesia again, the UNHCR there knew what was going on. Like Amnesty had an idea. Like I had people aware, because like that's like advice for anyone who gets into these situations. Make sure people know, because it's really easy for you to just go unknown, right? They can do whatever the fuck they want. So yeah, so because of that, there was that pressure, and then eventually, like, and because I was detained, that expedited my asylum, like my refugee application. And since I couldn't go back into Malaysia, like I couldn't go anywhere else, it just worked out. So
Choose Canada, or did they just say you're going to Canada?
at it because like that was my plan, like initially, like that I always wanted to end up here eventually. But I mean, I let them know. I was like, I think that's what I want. They're like, we will definitely try, but we usually isn't that easy. They're telling me like all this stuff, but I had a friend here in Montreal though, and he's like, look, you're going through exactly what I went through. Like this is exactly like step by step what happened to me. Just stay there, and you're gonna get here. Don't worry. Like he just like knew from the start. So I was like, okay, and just kept pushing for it. And yeah, then they were like, okay, we're gonna, I had to redo my interviews, but from within the cell I was in, because the immigration wouldn't even let me out to see the UN people. So I had to
Oh
do it
my
on the
god.
phone. Yeah, and then yeah, eventually like okay, like a week later, they're like, okay, we've sent you the application to apply for resettlement in Canada. So just fill that in and send it. And like yeah, a couple days later, they're like, okay, it's been accepted. Your flight is coming soon. I'm like, okay.
Do you live here with your parents, or are they still?
They're in
Oh.
Jordan.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So I'm alone here. Yeah. I mean,
Didn't know that. For some reason, I assumed you lived with your parents. But I just think like everybody under 30 lives with their parents these days, so.
I would be if I was in Jordan, but yeah, with my roommates here and just yeah.
And do your parents want to eventually move here if they're able to?
I don't think so. Even though it'd be so good for them, like I don't think they want to move that far away. My brother wants to come here. Like me and him are close as well, so that's been like we always wanted to do that. Whether they want to, I think they prefer being like a Muslim majority kind of country, and plus I don't know how they'd feel about like LGBT stuff and pride being in their face all the time. I feel like they might lose it. I know, we'll see. Maybe with time they'll want to. Maybe when I can afford to like sponsor them to come here, then I can be like, hey. But at this time, it seems they have like other plans. They're still working on their own stuff as well, business and stuff like that. So I still can't order them around. But they'll get to an age where I'm like, okay, I have to take care of you. Come here.
I appreciate you sharing your story. That was really cool, and I've always loved the idea of doing like podcasts and bringing on different people. So this is kind of maybe me segueing into that and bringing on other people. So thank you so much.
No worries at all. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Please follow Nate's channel. I will post it down below. And I think we're going to do a video together too. So if you want to check that out, go to his channel. And yeah, peace everyone.